He's arguably the most visible food blogger in South Louisiana, with one of the most popular blogs on the web. He's taken his takes on dining and debauchery from the net to network television and now to the airwaves. Meet Jay Ducote of BiteandBooze.com, a true triple threat.
My name is Jay Ducote, and I started Bite and Booze in 2009. Kind of a long story. A good buddy of mine from high school had a food blog that he just kind of occasionally wrote about some really memorable meals that he wanted to share with people. And I talked to him about it a little bit at a buddy of mine from high school's wedding. And when I got back to Baton Rouge, I was like, you know, we don't have anything like that in Baton Rouge. I couldn't find anything about somebody just talking about everything that they ate in Baton Rouge. And so the thought just kind of processed in my head for a little while. And at the end of that month, I actually looked at a credit card receipt and I was like, man, I spend a lot of money eating and drinking. And I know I'm not gonna stop doing that. So what's the next best thing? Make it productive. So the thought went back to my buddy's blog, and I was just like, that's the answer. I'll just start writing about everything that I eat and drink. And so BiteandBooze.com was born right then. When it started in September 2009, really late September, October 2009, I was just posting about different meals at different restaurants, and I was posting a lot because I almost wanted to track like everything that I was eating, and so it was kind of obnoxious right when it began, but no one was reading it, so it didn't matter, I guess. It actually helped that I just generated some content. But in November, I actually went out to San Francisco with my good buddy Eusebio Gongora, who's a chef in town, and we went to the first ever Food Buzz Food Blogger Festival. Food Buzz is it's a website, foodbuzz.com, and they organized a food blogger festival out in San Francisco, and so I got to go to that and just mingle with a lot of other food bloggers that had been doing it for a while, that were successful at it. And the first thing that I learned there was that I needed to get on Twitter. Somebody asked me, like one of the very first things that I got asked, you know, get a glass of wine, I'm in San Francisco, great food all around, we're at this party to kick off this food blogger festival, and somebody's like, oh, what's your Twitter handle? And I was like, Twitter? I'm not on Twitter. And so actually by the end of the night, I was convinced, and at the hotel room that night, I actually got on Twitter. That way I had that Twitter handle for the rest of the conference. And that really had a lot to do with how it got kicked off, because the social media aspect of it is kind of what helped propel me and my site to where it is now. It helped attract that readership. It helped have that communication channel, because with the blog, I'm throwing content out there, and then even if people leave comments and stuff, it's not really a communication channel. And the social media, both Facebook and Twitter, allowed that to really me to be a source of information and a source of just conversation about food and drink in Baton Rouge. I can write whatever I want, and I publish it myself. And so the next step, which actually was just in March 2010, as I started writing for a local magazine, Town Favorites magazine, decided that they would publish a monthly restaurant review article from me. And so that was kind of that first step from being self-published to now somebody else is publishing my writing. And then I moved over to 225 magazine and started doing some freelance food writing with them. In that whole year, Bite and Booze just kept developing, and I started doing more stuff that I kind of transitioned a little bit from restaurants that I ate at and just stuff that other people cooked to things that I cooked, and festivals and food-based events and things like that as well. I kind of wanted to cover the entire food and beverage landscape, and not just I ate at this restaurant and then I ate at this restaurant and I ate at that restaurant. And so it really kind of developed a lot more into just the total package. August 2010, I had a recipe get selected to represent LSU in the first ever Tony Chachere's tailgating cook-off. And there was one recipe selected to represent each of the 12 schools in the Southeastern Conference. And so mine was selected to represent LSU. It was a blackberry bourbon bone-in Boston butt, basically a smoked pork shoulder. I like the alliteration. A smoked pork shoulder that was injected with a mixture of honey, blackberry jam, and bourbon, and then rubbed on the outside. And it was a real simple barbecue rub. It was just 50-50 Tony Chachere's and brown sugar. So the Tony's has all the salt, some red pepper, some garlic powder, some onion powder, all that good stuff. And then the brown sugar just kind of cut that so it wasn't so salty, and gave it that nice sugar content to caramelize on the outside and form a crust in the smoker. And so that I ended up going through the online portion of the cook-off and then doing a live cook-off for the LSU Ole Miss game, and I ended up winning the whole thing. And so that was kind of a big step, and throughout that entire thing, I got a fair amount of press, got a fair amount of just getting to go on local news shows and do cooking demos of the recipe that was featured in the contest and things along those lines. So it was definitely a big step. The next step actually was that I was cast as one of the top 100 amateur chefs in America to go out to Los Angeles and be on the reality show MasterChef. So I was actually on season 2 of MasterChef on Fox. It's the reality show with Gordon Ramsay and Graham Elliott and Joe Bastianich, and it's all amateur chefs. No one on the show could have been working in a restaurant or could have actually been in the food industry. I was a food writer, but that wasn't my day job, so I got to go out there and compete, and it was a real big honor just to be in that top 100 out of 22,000 people that auditioned. I was one of the 100 that got to go to LA, but unfortunately I didn't make it very far once I was there, but it was still a great experience, and I actually did make it onto the show. So I was episode 1 of season 2 of MasterChef. I'm on it. You can definitely pull me out of the crowd. When I got back to town, actually it just kind of turned out that Guaranteed Broadcasting was switching the format of 107.3 to an all-talk radio station. And so I just shot him an email and said, hey, look, I've got this blog. This is what I do with LSU sports and tailgating and barbecue contests and things like that. I would really love to do a radio show about it and just get to talk, do a talk radio show, do an hour of radio every week where I'm interviewing local chefs, other food personalities, people that do food-based events. Really, my blog, just an oral version of it. And so they actually really loved the idea. They were looking for local content. They wanted to start off their new radio station with kind of some strong, local, non-political talk, because their Monday through Fridays were kind of filled with conservative talk radio already. They wanted something different on the weekends. And so it turned out that Chef John Folse moved his show to 107.3, and I actually got the time slot right after his. So we had a couple hours of food-based radio there. Chef John Folse talking about his real authentic Cajun and Creole recipes and food and cooking a lot more. And then my show really talking a lot more about eating and drinking and enjoying it all, and then some cooking. It's always fun, and it gets to change every week because I have a different guest on the show every week, and so it's it's just keeping it fresh and just exploring the food scene of Baton Rouge on the radio, which is really a whole lot of fun. If you're a foodie in town and you haven't gone to biteandbooze.com or you don't really know what it is, you're just missing out on a little bit of the fun and festivities of eating and drinking in Baton Rouge, because there's really a lot that Baton Rouge has to offer. I think sometimes we kind of get almost left out when we're sandwiched between New Orleans and then Lafayette and authentic Cajun country, and Baton Rouge is just kind of this mixing pot of Louisiana, it seems. But we've got some great food here, and we've got some really great local hole-in-the-wall kind of spots that I just love. And a lot of people that I find don't know about all those. They think Baton Rouge is a town of chain restaurants and boring food, and that they have to go to Lafayette or New Orleans to get something real and authentic, and that's definitely not the case. We've got some excellent hole-in-the-wall, some excellent, long-time established, locally owned restaurants, and really a great culinary scene, and that's really what I try to explore. And so going to biteandbooze.com, you can kind of explore that with me.
Well, that will do it for this inaugural episode of Food Louisiana. Until next time, like us on Facebook and follow Food Louisiana on Twitter. And of course, keep an eye out for future shows right here on Louisiana's local television, Cox 4.